Every trader's journey begins in the same place, full of excitement, full of dreams, and full of illusions. The idea of freedom pulls you in, the promise of financial independence captivates you, but somewhere between your first winning trade and your first major loss, you begin to realize something uncomfortable. The market doesn't care. It doesn't care about your dreams, your needs, your fears, or your strategies. It is a mirror, reflecting your beliefs, your behaviors, and your ability to handle uncertainty. In the beginning, trading feels like a game of prediction. You think if you can just find the right setup, the perfect indicator, or the secret pattern, you'll be safe, you'll be right. But that's the first illusion. The first stage of trading is the stage of external control, where you believe the power lies outside of you. You react to every tick of the market as if it's a personal message. You win and feel invincible. You lose and feel betrayed. You are tossed around by emotion because you haven't yet discovered the truth. The market doesn't reward those who predict. It rewards those who can stay neutral in the face of randomness. The second stage begins when you start to question everything. Not the market, but yourself. You begin to notice patterns, not on the chart, but in your own behavior. You see how fear makes you exit too early, how greed blinds you to warning signs, and how hope keeps you from accepting reality. This is the stage of self-awareness, and it's uncomfortable. You start to realize that trading success isn't about being right. It's about being disciplined. It's about managing yourself when everything inside you wants to do the opposite of what logic demands. At this point, many traders quit. They can't handle the emotional exposure. The market forces them to confront truths they've avoided their entire lives, about control, about uncertainty, about self-worth. But those who persist move into the third stage, acceptance. This is where everything begins to shift. You stop fighting the market. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop trying to avoid losses. You understand that risk is not your enemy, it's your partner. Every trade becomes just another expression of probability, not a test of your value. And then comes the quiet transformation, the fourth stage, the stage of consistency. You no longer need the market to validate you. You're not chasing profits or running from pain. You are simply executing your edge, trade after trade, without attachment. You trust your plan, you trust your discipline, and most importantly, you trust yourself. The emotional chaos that once defined your trading fades into calm precision. You realize mastery isn't a result of controlling the market. It's the outcome of mastering your own responses to it. This evolution, from chaos to clarity, from reaction to awareness, is the true journey of every trader. The secret is that this journey never truly ends. You don't graduate from it, you grow within it. Each stage prepares you for the next layer of truth. The moment you think you've arrived, the market will humble you again, reminding you that growth is a constant state, not a destination. So ask yourself honestly, what stage are you in? Are you still fighting the market, blaming it for your pain? Are you beginning to see that your results mirror your mindset? Or have you reached the place where the outcome no longer controls your emotions? The answer will tell you everything about where your next level lies. The market is the greatest teacher of self-awareness the world has ever created, but only those willing to look inward, to face their fears, and to evolve beyond emotion will ever unlock its true rewards. Because in trading, as in life, you don't trade the market. You trade your beliefs about it. Every trader begins their journey with a dream. The dream of freedom, wealth, and control over their destiny. You open the charts for the first time, watch the candles dance, and you feel that rush of possibility. It feels like you've found a game where intelligence can outsmart chance. You study, you analyze, and you convince yourself that if you just find the right system, you'll win. But slowly, reality begins to reveal itself. You take trades that look perfect, and they fail. You make mistakes, but you justify them. You watch your account fluctuate like your emotions. And sooner or later, you find yourself asking a painful question. Why is the market doing this to me? That question marks the beginning of awareness. Not because you found the answer, but because you finally started to ask the right question. The truth is, the market isn't doing anything to you. It's just existing. It's neutral. It's a mirror. And what you see reflected in it has nothing to do with its behavior and everything to do with your perception of it. The first major shift in a trader's evolution begins when you stop blaming the market. That's when you stop projecting your internal chaos onto something that cannot hear you. The market isn't against you. It doesn't even know you exist. When you lose, it's not because it hunted your stop or because they manipulated the price. It's because you responded to uncertainty in a way that exposed your weaknesses. Awareness begins when you realize that every trade is a reflection of your relationship with uncertainty, not a battle between you and the chart. As long as you blame the market, you give away your power. You position yourself as the victim of something outside your control. And as long as you live in that mental position, your decisions will be emotional, not strategic. You'll chase moves that aren't yours. You'll take revenge trades trying to get back at the market as if it stole something from you. You'll double down on losing positions because you refuse to accept being wrong. The more you do it, the deeper you sink into the illusion that you can somehow control what is uncontrollable. That's not trading. That's denial wearing the mask of strategy. True awareness is born when you stop searching for external causes and start examining your internal reactions. When you stop saying the market tricked me and start asking, why did I react that way? You begin to see that your greatest obstacles are not volatility, not manipulation, not lack of knowledge, but your own resistance to uncertainty, your need to be right, and your fear of loss. The moment you can look at those truths without running from them, you've entered the stage of self-awareness that separates the average trader from the one who has a chance at mastery. Blaming the market is comforting because it gives you an excuse. It protects your ego from the pain of accountability. It's easier to believe that something unfair is happening than to admit that your beliefs and behaviors might be misaligned, but progress only starts where excuses end. You cannot fix what you won't take responsibility for. Every losing streak, every emotional impulse, every moment of frustration, they all carry messages about you. The market is just the messenger. You are the message. When you stop blaming, something powerful happens. You start observing. You begin to see the same chart you've been watching for months, but now with new eyes. You see not just price action, but your reaction. You notice how a red candle makes your heart race, how hesitation shows up right before opportunity, and how greed whispers louder right after a win. Awareness turns your trading screen into a mirror, one that reflects not numbers and patterns, but the patterns inside you. This is where emotional maturity begins. You realize that every trade is not a test of your knowledge, but a test of your self-control. You stop fighting to be right and start aiming to respond correctly. You stop trying to predict and start preparing. You stop trading what you want to happen and start trading what is happening. You understand that awareness is not passive. It's the foundation of discipline, because you can't change what you don't first recognize. Let's be honest. The market will always do things you don't expect. It will move too fast, too slow, or in the opposite direction of your analysis. News will come out of nowhere. Patterns will fail. Setups will collapse. And yet, some traders thrive in that chaos while others fall apart. Why? Because awareness allows you to stay centered while others are reacting. The untrained mind collapses under pressure. The aware mind observes and adapts. When you no longer blame the market, you begin to view losses differently. A loss is not an attack. It's just data. It's feedback. It's part of the sequence that builds consistency. You stop taking it personally because you understand that losing trades don't define your worth. Your response to them does. You begin to see that your job isn't to eliminate losses, but to manage them within the structure of probability. The pain of loss transforms into information, and that information becomes wisdom. In that state of awareness, you stop needing to be right. You start needing to follow your plan. You realize that the real profit is not measured in money, but in mastery. You become less reactive and more deliberate. Each trade, win or lose, becomes another opportunity to reinforce self-control. You learn to say, this loss is part of the process, and you mean it. Not because you enjoy losing, but because you finally understand its role in your evolution. Awareness doesn't just change how you trade, it changes how you think. You stop looking for certainty where none exists. You stop trying to force the market to give you what you want. You begin to align with the natural flow of probability instead of resisting it. And that alignment creates something rare: inner peace in the midst of chaos. The noise of the market no longer dictates your emotions because you've realized that your peace doesn't come from what the market does. It comes from your ability to remain centered no matter what it does. Think of awareness as the light in a dark room. When you first start trading, you're moving blindly, bumping into walls, mistaking luck for skill, and blaming everything that goes wrong on the market. But as the light of awareness grows, you start seeing clearly. You see your tendencies, your triggers, your patterns of avoidance. You see how you sabotage yourself in subtle ways, entering too early, exiting too late, ignoring your stop, moving your target. And once you see those patterns, you can change them. That's the real edge, not the system, not the strategy. Awareness turns pain into perspective. Every mistake becomes a lesson, every loss becomes feedback, and every emotional reaction becomes an opportunity to practice neutrality. The same events that used to make you spiral now make you stronger because awareness transforms reaction into reflection. And reflection builds emotional resilience, the single most valuable skill any trader can develop. Most traders want to skip this part. They want to go straight from learning strategies to making profits. But the truth is, without awareness, every strategy eventually fails. You'll find yourself repeating the same mistakes in different forms because the core issue was never external. Until you stop blaming the market, you'll always be trading from a place of unconscious emotion, not conscious choice. Awareness is what breaks that cycle. It puts you back in control of the only thing you can control, yourself. The irony of trading is that the more aware you become, the less you need to control. You realize that control was never the goal. Understanding was the market doesn't need to behave, you do, and when you behave in alignment with your plan, the outcomes take care of themselves over time. You begin to trade with calm detachment. You stop trying to predict the next candle and start responding to the present moment. You become an observer rather than a reactor. And in that neutrality, consistency begins to form naturally. Blaming the market is a form of emotional avoidance, an attempt to protect your ego from the discomfort of self-awareness. But the market's greatest gift is that it refuses to let you hide. It will continue to expose every belief, every fear, and every illusion until you face them. That's why awareness isn't optional. It's inevitable if you want to survive. You will either develop it consciously or the market will force it upon you through repeated pain. Awareness is the point where growth truly begins. It's the moment when you take full ownership of your journey, not just your results, but your reactions, your habits, and your beliefs. It's when you realize that trading is not about conquering the market, but about mastering yourself. And when that realization takes root, everything changes. You stop chasing certainty and start seeking clarity. You stop trying to be right and start trying to be aligned. You stop fighting and start flowing. So the next time you feel frustration rising, the next time you want to blame manipulation, algorithms, or market makers, pause. Look inward. Ask yourself, what belief is being challenged right now? What emotion am I trying to escape? That single moment of awareness can change the trajectory of your trading career. Because when you stop blaming, you start learning. When you start learning, you start evolving. And when you evolve, the market no longer feels like an enemy. It becomes your greatest teacher. Awareness begins when you stop blaming the market, but mastery begins when you start thanking it for showing you the parts of yourself you couldn't see without it. That's the secret evolution of every trader, turning resistance into reflection and reflection into growth. Because in the end, the market isn't testing your strategy. It's testing your ability to remain aware in a world that rewards those who can see clearly when everyone else is reacting blindly. Mastery in trading is not about conquering the market. It's about conquering yourself. Every chart, every trade, every fluctuation you witness is not an invitation to control the market, but a test of how well you can control your own internal environment while it unfolds. Most traders enter the market thinking mastery is an external achievement, that once they find the perfect strategy, the flawless setup, or the ultimate indicator, they'll finally have control. But control over the market is an illusion. The only control that exists, the only control that ever truly matters, is the one you have over your own mind. Trading mastery is not built on predictions, it's built on calibration, the constant process of aligning your internal state with the external reality. You cannot control what the market will do next, but you can calibrate how you respond to it. You can adjust your beliefs, your reactions, your emotions, and your focus, so that no matter what the market throws at you, your internal balance remains intact. That is the difference between the trader who survives and the trader who evolves. The market is a mirror that never lies. When you chase external control, that mirror will expose your inner chaos. You will try to force trades that don't exist, hold on to losers that should have been cut, and sabotage winners because you can't handle uncertainty. You'll find yourself in a constant emotional tug-of-war, hoping, fearing, reacting, regretting, because your energy is focused outward. You're trying to manage what is unmanageable. The market does not bend to willpower. It only reveals where your will is misplaced. But when you begin to understand that mastery is internal, something profound happens. The market stops being an adversary and becomes an instrument. Its movements no longer trigger you, they inform you. You stop trying to impose your expectations onto it and start observing it for what it truly is, a field of probabilities. You stop demanding certainty and begin operating from clarity. You no longer need the market to make you feel safe because safety is not something you find in price movement. It's something you cultivate in your own awareness. Internal calibration means learning to recognize when your emotions, expectations, and behaviors are misaligned with the reality of the market. It's a process of self-correction. Moment by moment, trade by trade, when the market spikes against you and fear rises, calibration means noticing that fear before it takes control. It means pausing, breathing, and remembering that one trade doesn't define you. When euphoria tempts you to overtrade after a big win, calibration means seeing that emotional high for what it is, a distortion of perspective, and grounding yourself before greed turns into self-destruction. Every moment in trading gives you a choice: react unconsciously or respond consciously. Calibration is the art of choosing the latter. The traders who fail are those who try to change the market instead of changing themselves. They seek systems, gurus, and signals because it feels easier than facing their own patterns of fear and impulsivity, but no amount of technical knowledge can compensate for emotional instability. You can learn every strategy in existence, but if your internal state is erratic, your results will be erratic. The consistency you seek in your P&L will never appear until it first exists in your mind. Mastery demands emotional neutrality. It's not the absence of emotion. It's the ability to experience emotion without letting it dictate your behavior. You will always feel fear, excitement, frustration, and doubt. Those emotions are part of being human. The difference is that a calibrated trader can feel those emotions and still act according to plan. They've trained themselves to trust structure over impulse, logic over emotion, process over noise. Their power comes from alignment, not control. Think of your trading mind like a compass. If the needle is unsteady, constantly spinning from greed to fear, from hope to regret, you will never navigate through uncertainty. But when you calibrate that compass, when you bring your mind into balance, it always points true. Even when the market storms around you, the market doesn't need to be predictable when you are consistent. That is internal mastery, the ability to remain grounded in a world designed to unground you. The paradox of trading is that the more you seek control, the less you have it. Control is rooted in fear, the fear of loss, the fear of being wrong, the fear of uncertainty. When you act from that fear, you tighten your grip, and the tighter you grip, the more reactive you become. You close winners too early. You refuse to take losses. You chase missed moves. You distort the natural flow of your process. Because you're trying to impose certainty on an inherently uncertain environment, the market becomes chaos not because it changes, but because you're emotionally out of sync with it. But calibration works differently. It doesn't fight uncertainty, it aligns with it. It accepts randomness as part of the design. It understands that probability, not prediction, governs the game. When you are calibrated, every outcome, win or loss, fits into a framework that keeps you steady. You begin to understand that losing is not failure, and winning is not proof of superiority. They are both just data points within the same process. You are no longer swayed by the emotional highs and lows that destroy most traders, because your internal compass keeps you balanced through it all. Internal calibration also means aligning your beliefs with market reality. Many traders hold beliefs that are incompatible with success. Like, I have to win to prove I'm good enough, or losing means I failed. Those beliefs create pressure, and that pressure leads to impulsive actions. To calibrate internally, you must examine those beliefs and replace them with ones that support clarity. A professional trader believes, my job is to execute my edge. The outcome of any single trade is irrelevant. That belief frees them from emotional attachment and allows them to trade from a state of relaxed focus. The deeper you go into calibration, the more you realize that the market doesn't require more effort. It requires more awareness. Most traders burn out not because they lack skill, but because they misuse energy. They spend their focus trying to predict instead of observing, trying to control instead of aligning. But once you learn to stay internally balanced, trading becomes effortless in a strange way. You're no longer fighting for control. You're flowing with precision. You begin to see that your mind and the market are connected through rhythm. When you are emotionally calm, you see opportunities others miss. When you are chaotic, the same chart looks like noise. Calibration refines perception. It allows you to see the truth hidden beneath volatility. Mastery is not a single moment of enlightenment. It's a daily practice. It's the act of catching yourself. The instant emotion starts to take over and returning to center, it's noticing the subtle tension in your chest before you click the button. It's asking, am I trading my plan or my emotion right now? Mastery is built not in the big wins, but in the countless micro adjustments you make every day. Each time you choose awareness over impulse, you strengthen your internal alignment. Over time, that alignment becomes automatic, a way of being that defines how you interact with uncertainty, not just in trading, but in life. When you master internal calibration, something extraordinary happens. Time slows down. The market may move fast, but your perception becomes calm and deliberate. You can watch a volatile candle form and still feel peace. You can experience a sudden loss and remain unmoved, not because you don't care, but because you trust your process. That calm awareness allows you to see beyond the noise, to sense the rhythm of the market without being consumed by it. It's the same difference between a dancer forcing steps and a dancer moving in harmony with the music. The market is the music. Mastery is learning to move with it. You stop needing to know what comes next. You start needing only to know what you will do next, no matter what comes. That's the essence of internal calibration. Certainty in behavior, not in outcome. You cannot know what the next trade will bring, but you can know that you will follow your plan. You cannot know when the market will turn, but you can know that you will manage your risk. That internal predictability replaces the illusion of external control. You become your own anchor in a sea of randomness. And that's what separates the master from the amateur. The amateur seeks safety in the market. The master creates safety within himself. The amateur needs the market to behave. The master needs only to behave according to his structure. The amateur reacts to what he sees. The master responds from what he knows. The amateur chases external validation. The master is internally calibrated. His worth is not tied to his results, but to his consistency. The final truth about mastery is that it's not about perfection. It's about balance. You will still make mistakes. You will still experience fear. You will still have moments of doubt, but they will no longer control you. You'll catch them, observe them, and return to your center, again and again. Each time you do, your calibration deepens. Each time you realign, your confidence grows. And slowly, without realizing it, you become unshakable. Mastery is not about bending the market to your will. It's about aligning your internal world so that no matter how the market moves, you remain composed, disciplined, and present. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. You can't control the outcome of each trade, but you can control your preparation, your reaction, and your discipline. That's what calibration really means. The ability to make internal adjustments that keep you in harmony with the external world, no matter how unpredictable it becomes. In the end, trading mastery is not a technical skill. It's a state of consciousness. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that nothing the market does can disturb your internal equilibrium, because you've stopped trying to control what you can't, and instead, you've learned to master what you can. Your mind, your emotions, your responses, your process. That's the secret that every professional trader eventually discovers. The market doesn't need to change for you to succeed. You need to calibrate until the market no longer dictates how you feel. When that happens, your decisions become fluid. Your actions become precise. Your trading becomes art. And you realize that mastery was never about predicting the market. It was about perfecting yourself in relation to it. Transformation in trading doesn't happen the moment you find the perfect strategy or the day you double your account. It happens the moment discipline replaces emotion. That's the invisible line every trader must cross. The point where decisions stop being driven by impulse and start being guided by structure. It's not glamorous. It's not sudden. It's a quiet, gradual evolution that rewires the way you think, act, and react in front of the market. And once you cross it, nothing about trading or life feels the same again. Every trader starts out emotional. How could you not? The market is alive with uncertainty. Every tick triggers excitement, fear, greed, or regret. You stare at the charts and see opportunity one moment and threat the next. Your heart races with every candle. Your mind swings between hope and panic, and your decisions feel urgent. In those early stages, emotion is in control. Completely, you're not trading your plan. You're trading your feelings about what the market might do next. At that level, you're reactive. A green candle makes you confident. A red candle makes you anxious. You're trapped in the market's rhythm, unable to detach your self-worth from your results. A winning trade gives you validation. A losing trade destroys your confidence. You're not managing risk. You're managing your emotions. That's why so many traders burn out. They're trying to control the market while being controlled by their feelings. But transformation begins when you start to see that emotion is not the enemy. It's just a signal. Emotion tells you where your mind is misaligned with reality, When fear spikes, it's not because the market is dangerous, it's because your beliefs are being challenged. When greed takes over, it's not because opportunity suddenly appeared, it's because you're chasing an illusion of control. The key isn't to suppress emotion, it's to replace it with discipline. Discipline is the bridge between chaos and control. It's what turns random behavior into structured action. It's what keeps you steady when everything around you is moving. Discipline doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop obeying those feelings. It's the ability to experience fear and still execute your plan. It's the strength to take a loss calmly, to let a winner run without interference, to follow your rules even when your ego screams for exceptions. Discipline is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. When you start trading with discipline, you begin to separate your identity from your outcomes. You stop taking losses personally. You stop seeing wins as proof of superiority. You understand that the market doesn't reward emotion, it rewards consistency. Every trade becomes just one iteration of probability. You no longer need every trade to be a winner because you know your edge works over time. That's when real confidence appears. Not the emotional high of a win, but the quiet trust that comes from doing what you said you'd do. Discipline is built in small moments. It's the decision not to move your stop loss. It's the choice to wait for confirmation instead of chasing a move. It's walking away when your plan says no trade, even if the chart looks tempting. These tiny acts of self-control are the bricks of transformation. Each time you choose discipline over emotion, you train your nervous system to operate in alignment with logic, not impulse. Over time, this becomes who you are, a trader who doesn't need to force outcomes because you trust your process. The transformation is subtle at first. You notice you're no longer anxious before a trade. You're no longer euphoric after a win or devastated after a loss. You start to feel neutral, not detached in a cold way, but calm in a grounded way. That neutrality is power. It's the state where your mind stops swinging between extremes and begins to operate from equilibrium. You realize that emotion was never the problem. Attachment was. Discipline dissolves attachment because it gives you structure to hold on to when the market tests you. Every emotional trader believes they can outsmart the market. Every disciplined trader knows they don't need to. Emotion tries to predict, discipline prepares. Emotion reacts, discipline responds. Emotion fears uncertainty, discipline accepts it. Emotion seeks control, discipline embodies it. The irony is that when you stop acting emotionally, the market finally starts to make sense. Not because it changes, but because your perception of it does. The disciplined trader understands that the market is a field of probabilities. You can't know what will happen next, but you can know what you will do next, regardless of what happens. That's true control, the only kind that exists in trading. Discipline replaces the need to be right with the need to follow process. It shifts your focus from making money to executing flawlessly. The profits become a byproduct of your consistency, not your emotions. Without discipline, every trade feels personal. You feel attacked when price moves against you, vindicated when it aligns with you. You fight the market as if it's judging you. But with discipline, trading becomes impersonal. You start to view each trade as one event in a long series. You stop attaching meaning to individual outcomes because your self-worth no longer depends on them. That emotional detachment is what frees your mind to see clearly. The process of replacing emotion with discipline is not easy. It's a war between two parts of you: the impulsive self that craves instant gratification and the professional self that values long-term growth. Every time you break your rules, you feed the impulsive self. Every time you follow them, no matter the result, you strengthen the disciplined one. Over time, the balance shifts. Discipline becomes natural. Emotion becomes background noise. You begin to act out of principle, not pressure. Think of emotion as noise and discipline as signal. The market is full of noise, fake-outs, volatility, random spikes. Your emotions amplify that noise. They make you react to every flicker of movement as if it carries deep meaning. But discipline filters the noise. It keeps you tuned into the signal, the structure of your plan, the probabilities behind your edge, the patience to wait for confirmation. The more disciplined you become, the quieter the noise gets. You stop overtrading. You stop forcing setups. You start trading less, but earning more because your trades come from clarity, not chaos. Discipline also reshapes your relationship with time. Emotional traders are always in a rush. They want to turn every day into a payday. They equate activity with progress. But disciplined traders understand that time is their ally. They let opportunities come to them. They wait for setups to align perfectly because they know patience compounds results. They understand that every moment spent waiting with discipline is a step toward mastery. This shift from emotion to discipline changes everything about how you experience trading. Before, you were at the mercy of your mood. A losing day could ruin your confidence. A winning day could inflate your ego. Now, both outcomes feel the same. You execute, record, review, and move on. You no longer ride emotional waves because your stability doesn't depend on performance. You trust that your consistency over hundreds of trades will reflect your edge. This calm repetition, this relentless adherence to process, is what builds professional-level results. Discipline also reveals the truth about freedom. Most traders enter the market because they want freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, independence. But without discipline, freedom turns into chaos. Without rules, freedom becomes self-destruction. True freedom in trading comes from structure, the kind that allows you to act with clarity even when everything else feels uncertain. Discipline doesn't restrict you. It frees you from the emotional storms that used to control your every move. There's a deeper level to this transformation. When discipline replaces emotion, trading stops being about money altogether. It becomes a form of self-expression, a mirror of your inner state. You begin to realize that your trading results are not random. They're a reflection of your internal order or disorder. If you're disciplined, your account shows stability. If you're emotional, it shows chaos. The market becomes the most honest feedback loop you'll ever encounter. As you evolve, you start to see discipline as a spiritual practice. It's no longer about forcing yourself to follow rules. It's about cultivating awareness. You notice thoughts and emotions as they arise, but you don't identify with them. You let fear come and go. You let greed whisper, but you don't listen. You let frustration pass through you without reaction. Discipline becomes not just an action, but a state of being. Calm, steady, aware, and from that state, transformation happens naturally. Your trading sharpens, your execution improves, your drawdowns shrink, your confidence stabilizes. You stop searching for new strategies because you finally understand that the secret was never in the setup. It was in your ability to follow one. Discipline becomes your edge, and emotion becomes your teacher. You start to live differently too. The patience you develop in trading spills into your life. The self-awareness you build in managing losses helps you handle adversity outside the charts. The calm you cultivate while waiting for setups gives you peace in moments of uncertainty. The market, through the discipline it demands, transforms you into a more grounded, focused, and conscious person. When discipline replaces emotion, trading becomes effortless, not because it's easy, but because it's pure. You're no longer in conflict with yourself. You act, observe, and adjust without inner resistance. You no longer chase outcomes. You align with them. You no longer fear losses. You understand their purpose. You no longer crave validation. You embody confidence. That's the final stage of transformation. The moment you realize that discipline wasn't just a tool to help you trade better, it was the path to becoming the kind of person who deserves success. You stop needing motivation because you've built identity. You don't need to force discipline. It is who you are. The emotional trader looks at the market and sees a battlefield. The disciplined trader looks at the same chart and sees a mirror. The difference isn't in the market, it's in the mind. When discipline replaces emotion, the storms outside no longer matter because the waters within you are calm. And that is transformation. Not a change in what you trade, but a change in who is trading. In the end, every trader's journey leads to one truth. Mastery is not about predicting the market, but mastering yourself. Awareness awakens you. Calibration steadies you, and discipline transforms you. When you stop blaming the market, align your mind with reality, and replace emotion with structure, you step into the rare state where consistency feels effortless. The charts no longer control you. You flow with them. That's the real evolution of a trader, turning chaos into clarity, uncertainty into confidence, and trading into a reflection of inner peace.